The 7th century was pivotal in establishing the Christian faith in the British Isles. No one played a greater role in this process than the Northumbrian royal siblings, St Oswald, St Oswiu, and St Ab. In the early 600s, Northumbria was one of the largest and most powerful kingdoms of the British Isles. In 616, the King of Northumbria, Ethelfrith, was killed in battle by Redwald, the King of East Anglia. Redwald installed Edwin as King of Northumbria. So, the 4 children of Ethelfrith had to flee for their lives. As potential claimants to the throne, they were a danger to Edwin, who may have had them killed. They fled to the kingdom of Dal Rayata, which spanned the northeast of Ireland and the west coast of Scotland. They spent time on the island monastery of Iona. St Columba had founded the monastery there around 563, having come over from Ireland. So the children were taught the Christian faith and baptized. Some years after he had taken the throne, King Edwin was himself baptized. In 625 he married the Christian princess Ethelburga of Kent, and the marriage agreement stipulated that Edwin become Christian. When Ethelburga came to live in Northumbria, she brought a bishop, Paulinus, who began a Christian mission in the kingdom. So, on his baptism in 627, Edwin became the first Christian king of Northumbria. He lends his name to the capital of Scotland, Edinburgh, literally the city of Edwin. At that time the kingdom of Northumbria extended well into modern-day Scotland. His rule was not a long one. 6 years later he was killed at the Battle of Hatfield Chase, modern-day Yorkshire, by King Penda of Mercia in the Midlands, and King Cadwallon of Gwynedd, modern-day North Wales. Edwin's widow Ethelburga returned to Kent with Bishop Paulinus. She founded a convent there, in Lyminge, where there is still a Saxon church and a plaque marking her burial place. So, the way was open for the exiled Eanfrith, the eldest son of the previous king, to try and reclaim the Northumbrian throne. At that time, Northumbria was an amalgamation of 2 smaller kingdoms, Bernicia in the north and Deira in the south. Eanfrith succeeded only in taking Bernicia, and held it for just a few months before he too was killed by Cadwallon. St Bede believed the reason he ruled for so short a time is that he lost God's grace by reverting to paganism. So, the following year, 634, it was the turn of Eanfrith's younger brother, Oswald, to try and reclaim the Northumbrian throne. The night before he faced Cadwallon in battle, he dreamed that St Columba promised him victory. He erected a wooden cross, and his council agreed to baptism if they were victorious. Sure enough, Oswald won the battle, despite being heavily outnumbered. The site of the battle was later named Heavenfield, as it marks the place where the Christian kingdom of Northumbria, heaven on earth, was established. It lies near modern-day Hexham, and there is still a wooden cross there to mark the spot. So, Oswald took the throne of Northumbria. He had received a deep knowledge of the faith from the monks of Iona. So, he summoned a group of them to establish a monastery on the island of Lindisfarne, visible from his castle at Bamborough. The first bishop there was St Aidan, a pious and much-loved monk. Despite being a bishop, he travelled everywhere on foot, walking from village to village, spreading the faith. He fasted from food on Wednesdays and Fridays until 3 p.m. His tomb still exists at St Aidan's Church, Bamborough. In 651, Penda's army tried to burn down Bamborough Castle. St Aidan called out in prayer, and the wind changed direction towards Penda's men, who fled in terror. With Oswald's protection and support, Lindisfarne became one of the foremost centres of learning in Europe. It is said that the Northumbrian monk Alcuin outshone even the Roman scholars at the imperial court of Charlemagne. The conflict with King Penda of Mercia remained ongoing. In 642, Oswald faced him at the Battle of Maserfield, now located in Shropshire on the Welsh border. Penda was victorious and had Oswald's body dismembered. An eagle picked up Oswald's arm and flew up into a tree with it. A spring burst forth there, which became renowned by pilgrims for its healing qualities. The spring is there to this day. It is just up the road from the parish church, which is thought to mark the site of Oswald's death. The town was later named after him, Oswestry, or Oswald's Tree. St. Oswald was venerated as a saint and martyr. Pilgrims came from all over Europe to venerate his relics. The throne of Northumbria passed to Oswald's brother, Oswiu, who ruled until his death in 670. The year after his brother was killed, 643, Oswiu recovered parts of Oswald's body, which now lie in St. Cuthbert's coffin in Durham Cathedral. In 655, Penda's luck finally ran out. Oswiu killed him at the Battle of the Wynwead in modern-day Yorkshire. Like his brother, Oswiu had received the faith on Iona, which followed the Irish tradition. His wife Enfled, however, had been instructed in the Roman tradition. The two traditions calculated Easter differently, and one year the king was feasting while his wife was still keeping a strict Lenten fast. Oswiu called the Synod of Whitby to resolve the matter, which decided in favour of the Roman calculation of Easter. Oswiu was an excellent king, ruling wisely and justly, as his 28-year reign testifies. Unusually for kings at that time, he did not die in battle, but of natural causes, aged about 60. On his death in 670, his wife Enfled retired to the monastery at Whitby, and later succeeded St. Hilda as abbess there. Oswiu was succeeded by his son, Ecgfrith, likewise a pious Christian. It was he who persuaded St. Cuthbert to leave his island hermitage and accept the position of bishop. The age-old conflict between Northumbria and Mercia was finally resolved through two royal marriages. Oswiu's son, Aelfrith, married Penda's daughter, Cinnaburga. Oswiu's daughter, Aelfled, married Penda's son, Piada. The two pagan siblings were baptized as Christians as part of the agreement. However, it was another son of Penda, Wulfhere, who consolidated the faith in Mercia, ruling it from 658 to 675 as a Christian king. Monks were brought from Northumbria to teach the faith, including the brothers St. Ced and St. Chad, who are the subject of another video. Lastly, we turn to the sister of Oswald and Oswiu, St. Ab. She was still a baby when her father, King Ethelfrith, had been killed. She spent much of her childhood at the monastery of Iona with her siblings and gained a deep faith there. Unlike her brothers, she was able to avoid military service, although this image suggests she could look after herself. Ab founded the monastery of Coldingham, now in southern Scotland, at that time part of Northumbria. Her brother Oswiu granted the land to the monastery in 655. Recent archaeological investigations appear to have located the site of the monastery. The small fishing village on the coast nearby is named after her, St. Abbs. Coldingham was a double monastery, housing both men and women, which was quite usual at that time. One of the male monks was Adomnan, a devout Irishman. He had a vision of the monastery being destroyed by fire because of the poor behaviour there. The monks were neglecting their prayer life and failing to follow the fasts. St. Cuthbert frequented the monastery to try and inspire the monks. It was at the cove at St. Abbs that he was observed standing in the sea for hours praying. When he emerged from the sea, some otters breathed on his feet and lay on them to warm his toes. St. Cuthbert's visits improved matters for a while, but after St. Ab had fallen asleep in the Lord, things got worse again. Adomnan's vision came to pass. A fire destroyed the monastery entirely. Another famous resident at Coldingham was St. Queen Etheldreda. She had been married to Oswiu's son, King Ecgfrith. However, she insisted on maintaining her virginity, so Ecgfrith had the marriage annulled. Etheldreda later founded her own monastery at Ely. The cathedral there is built on the same spot. As for St. Ab, sadly her relics were destroyed, along with Coldingham Abbey, by the Scottish Reformation in 1560. So, let us give thanks to God for our three holy siblings, Oswald, Oswiu and Ab. Raised on the holy monastery of Iona, they were exposed to a strong and pious faith. They put this faith into action and were instrumental in forging the Christian kingdom of Northumbria. From there, piety and learning spread to the rest of the British Isles. Age-old conflicts between pagan kingdoms, based on vengeance and domination, gave way to the Christian values of humility, mercy, and the rule of law. Studying history provides us with an important lesson which we ignore at our peril. If we neglect God, it will be all too easy for our nation to slip back into discord and conflict. St. Oswald, St. Oswiu and St. Ab, pray to God for us. Help our land return to a strong and devout faith in our Lord Jesus Christ.